Happy Friday, and guess what? We're back, the Rickatron and Melissa show, Friday Tech Bites. Welcome, everyone. How you doing, Melissa?
Oh, good. How are you, Rick?
I'm doing okay. We've had a long week, fighting through a lot of stuff this week. I know you've had a special one, and we're going to get it. We're going to get it. Welcome, everyone. Today we got a great topic, ransomware recovery plans. Melissa, are you still in New Jersey?
I am, yes.
I'm still in Ohio. Our producers are in Romania and U.S. state of Georgia, and we are triple pinned on 3 different networks, but we want to know where you're from. So drop in the chat. I see Edwin from the Netherlands. Ask from I don't recognize that city. Maybe drop in the country. So drop in the country or the U.S. state, and we're going to light up this beautiful map location. Do you think we can break it today, Melissa?
I hope so. It's a great topic.
Well, no, break the map. The topic's good. I'm all about the map.
The topic is what's going to break the map, though, because everybody's so interested in what we have to say.
That's right. That's right. We've been on a journey with talking about ransomware, talking about recovery plans. And by the way, believe it or not, we even put some thought into this. We have the Monday series, the Industry Insights. Melissa, you've done a whole kind of broader DR story.
Absolutely.
There, and kind of the technical side shows up over here. Look at that. We've actually given it some thought. Great. Thank you, everyone, for letting us know where you're from. Keep it coming in. Oh, hey, Michael. I'm just down the way. Just down Interstate 70. I'll give you a like for that. He's in Indianapolis. Welcome. All right, Melissa, you ready to jump into it?
Let's do it.
All right. So ransomware recovery plans is the topic, but why are they the missing link? Let's start with a question first.
You're kind of stuffing the question box here, Rick. But here's the thing, right? A ransomware attack is bigger than just restoring a file or a server or anything like that, right? We're looking at a possible full site recovery. So it's a little different. And if you really want to put together a solid strategy on how to make sure that you can recover in that type of cyber event, there's a couple things that you need to do. Now, we have talked about the NIST framework a lot. I'm not going to dive into it too much. But I want to kind of break it into 3 things that become really important when it comes to a ransomware event, right? First of all is protecting our data, right? We need to make sure that we're protecting our data in the proper manner. We have to know what our recovery point objectives are for our virtual machines, because I love VMware, so I'm going to use example of virtual machines today. We need to make sure that we have the protection in place, right? So that we know everything's being backed up, everything looks good, we're good to go. And we want to detect a couple different things, right? We want to detect issues with that protection first and foremost. So if I'm not meeting my RPOs for any reason, I need to know that. If there's VMs in my environment that I am not backing up, I need to know that too. I also might want to be looking at things like the duration of my backup job or the size of my backup increments. So just kind of let me know if anything weird's going on, something out of the ordinary, right? So there's a bunch of different things that we can detect. And at the end of the day, I hope you never have to recover from ransomware. But if you do, you need to be able to recover quickly and at scale, right? Kind of just going and restoring one VM at a time is not going to work if your whole environment needs to be restored from backup. And really, when we talk about the Veeam platform, I spend a lot of time working with Veeam backup and replication to protect the data. Veeam 1 to detect issues with that protection or weird stuff going on in the environment. And of course, recovering with Veeam Disaster Recovery Orchestrator.
So, Melissa, you highlighted so many really important things, and this is a simplified way to walk the steps of competency, lack of a better word,
right,
of how to deal with these types of threats. And it's really simple. You can't recover from what you don't protect. You can't respond without proper detection, right? And recovery en masse. You hit something very important there because, we talked in the last episode, maybe 1 or 2 ago, about ransomware is a disaster, right? So it should be treated and prepared for just as much. And one of the things that stick out to me, in this is that organizations, when I talk to organizations, a lot of times they'll have backup data, but the part that is the breakdown. Let's see if we can do this live. It's football season here in the U.S. here.
Yeah, what are you doing?
I'm going rogue.
What are you doing, Rick? You're going crazy.
Rogue. I am. Let's see. Let's get a high vis color here. Let's see if I can do this. Yeah. So So I'm going to draw a line right here. I see a lot of people kind of fail on the right of the yellow line. So that's that first down marker here.
Okay.
I see people, the detection. We've talked about this, I think, on another episode. What's the worst detection engine? The help desk ticket, right? Or somebody texting you like, hey, what's this?
I can't log in. I logged into my server and nothing works. What happened here?
Right. That's not the detection mechanism we want. I also see a lot of organizations on the response and recovery area, right? They're just not executing established plans, that recovery en masse, right? So how could we possibly do this? Melissa, how could we cross that yellow line? I don't know.
It's a journey. It is a journey. I will say that much. But it's something that's important that we need to be thinking of now before we go to log in our server and everything's all nasty and encrypted.
Indeed. And we've talked about, you mentioned the NIST cybersecurity framework here. And when we look at ransomware capabilities that Veeam provides, I love showing it this way because this walks the capabilities in an established framework of these 5 functions. That's hard to say quickly, by the way, these 5 functions: identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. So when you look at Veeam capabilities, walking the wheel, we have capabilities all along the line, but kind of a different way of explaining what I just said about the yellow line. Those impact opportunities, again, right here, detect and response. You expect backup products to do well and protect and recover, but these finer points in the middle, that's kind of the story, Melissa, you and I have been telling these two
for a while,
for functions for a while. And I know you love your orchestration, and that sits right there. And we've talked about the orchestrator product that can really help there. But you hit on something, the SLAs. You hit on that briefly. Tell us a little bit more about, how validating SLAs are an important part. So a missing link.
We always need to be looking at our SLAs because, again, it's not only about detecting ransomware to me, right? It's about detecting issues with my protection and my possible response and recovery later, right? So you need to be looking at things like your backup jobs and making sure that they're all running the, completing in the expected time, because, hey, if my backup jobs are running into each other, that means I'm not meeting RPOs, right? So it really needs to kind of go back to, hey, we need to continuously, holistically look at our environment and say, hey, are we meeting these RPOs and even RTOs on a regular basis? So we know that at any moment we can meet that SLA.
Yeah, and I've said this before that, this is that difference between day 1 and day 78. You set something up on day 1, it looks great. Come back in a little bit. Well, we've got 10% data growth, 3 new enterprise apps, something's gone away, new storage array. That's the type of stuff that just makes a design get changed, but Veeam can help you catch that. All right, the producers have let me know that the application is ready. And wow, thank you everyone for sharing. So let's jump over there. Look at this. We got it. We're doing good. New Jersey, Chicago, Canada. I like it. Big green spots. Great. Thank you so much. Over in Europe, Netherlands, Slovakia. I'll be there in November. Ireland, Iceland, Italy, UK, Russia, and France. Welcome. Tomorrow's summit. Okay, I almost tried to do my French. I can't do that without preparation. All right, South America. Bienvenidos. That one I know. Good representation. Chile, Argentina, Bolivia, Puerto Rico, Brazil. Obrigado. And great representation there. We've got Nigeria, Abu Dhabi, in the UAE, Pakistan, India. Oh, wow. I love it when Malaysia and Singapore come in on the APJ side. That's great because there is absolutely nothing better to watch live at midnight 30 than Veeam Tech Bites. So start your Saturday right. I love it. And Colorado and Norway sneaking in there. And it's hard. We're aggregating all 3 of the streams, right? And if we didn't call your location, drop it in the chat. We've got the LinkedIn. What else we doing? I forget.
Facebook, YouTube, we're everywhere.
Yeah, all the streams. Maybe next year we'll have more. Good stuff. So back to the framework, right? Veeam capabilities here. We got white papers. We've got other resources that help us guide that. And this is the way. Everything plays a part. I like to say everybody's in the cybersecurity group, and we take that seriously. Now, when you do the actual backup, back to the protection here, we highlight this immutable backups. We want to zoom in on just one thing here. What's the word I made up? Have you heard it?
Resilient.
Yeah, what do you think about it? You have a background in storage.
It kind of has grown on me, right? Because we really need this type of copy of data. Everybody should just have one.
I like it. I like this word. I was wanting something to kind of collectively, capture the three media characteristics here: offline, immutable, and air gapped. And, to be fair, there might be a time in the future that there's yet another type of media that would make this ultra resilient characteristic, right? There might be another, I don't want to say type of media, but a characteristic of a media that would be an option. I don't know what that might be. I love storage innovations, but here's the menu. And okay, so we like doing this, picking favorite kids and the like. Melissa, you can pick one first and tell me why you like it.
Okay, I'm gonna go Team Immutable in both the forms of the hardened repository and Veeam backup and replication version 11. Take your favorite commodity server, load it full of really fast drives, and make it immutable and send your backups there for rapid recovery. And I'll also give a huge shout out to S3 and S3 compatible storage that also feature immutability as well.
Yeah, it's actually kind of mean what you just did there, sister. You took both of my two favorites in one.
I feel greedy today.
Oh, yeah. And guys, I have to work with her. So, All right, so I'm going to go old school, and I'm going to even drop in another color. I'm going to go on Team Tape. Right now, that doesn't align completely. We don't have the orchestrator product supporting tape, but you still can use tape out for these extra copies. But
again, an extra copy.
Exactly. Now, here's why I like tape. You can have, especially worm media, write once, read many. At one point in time, worm media removed from the library is, guess what? It's offline, it's immutable, and it's air gapped. So it is like the ultra resilient, champ in a way.
Ultra resilient champion.
Yeah, exactly. Because it can actually hold all three characteristics at once, which I actually think is rather rock star. So I will give him a gold star, or maybe a blue line.
Fair enough.
All right, you pick next. Which one do you like?
I have to pick more. I mean, I'm just like Team Immutable here. I'll take replicated VMs for 1,000, please.
Replication, and I wonder why. So the replication, right? So are you leading the witness here to VDRO?
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good way to get out of a problem. That's for sure. I'm going to close it out here with not close it out, but end this train of thought, or just, unplanned game show that I've made here to be the service providers up in the mix. And, this one's actually an interesting one. And I've seen a couple of people here on that I recognize that work for Veeam service providers. This is probably the hero of the mix too. Now, we had a champion, but we also have a hero. The insider protection from service providers, that's an out-of-band copy of your backups, and that meets my criteria. So, what kind of point of view do you have on the service provider angle, Melissa?
Again, it's great. It's not your network. It's not your anything. They have a copy. And believe me, I've worked with a lot of our Veeam service providers. They are absolutely doing the things the right way to keep you protected if you're sending them your data.
Indeed. And one other thing I'll add to that is, let's assume you haven't taken our advice and you haven't built disaster recovery plans. You might not trust where your data came from. You might, you might have called in a cybersecurity response organization. You might not have access to it in a way. Service providers can give you a fresh place to install to. That can be a very
that's a good point too. A brand new place to recover to if you're in a lot of trouble.
All right, so we're going to take ultra resilient to the next level. And, I love my scale out backup repository.
I think everybody loves their scale out backup repository at this point.
So the scale out backup repository, now actually this is something I don't know 100% the answer, Melissa, but within the orchestrator product, the scale out backup repository is supported as a target. Is that correct?
You bet.
Right. That would be kind of weird if it didn't.
Here's the thing to remember about orchestrator, right? It's leveraging Veeam backup and replication in the background. Once we take that orchestrator and agent and install it on your backup and replication server, we know all of your jobs you have configured. We know about all your repositories, all that good stuff. And from our perspective, that's all we need. Then we're going to recover to wherever we need to, all that kind of good stuff. But your basic protection that you've already set up is going to be leveraged by Orchestrator under the covers. And if you actually, here's a little fun fact, if you're actually running an orchestration plan and you log into backup and replication in the console, you'll literally see something called orchestrated task. And that will be Orchestrator kind of underneath doing its thing.
Yeah, so a lot of the best practices that go with like our backups, we can definitely apply to these bigger, higher level outcomes of orchestrated recovery. So when we look at the scale out backup repository, one of the cool things I like to highlight is that this doesn't have any Veeam backup infrastructure. It's just the storage.
Right.
So, and you might be using some of the low cost archive storages. Now, what's awesome here, Melissa, is that we can have immutability in a lot of places. So you, again, took the two cool new things.
Sorry.
Indeed. So on premises, say with the hardened Linux repository and potentially in a number of object storage types. Now, the cool thing here, Melissa, that I like to say is you can actually have both. Double play immutability.
Yeah, you can have everything. If you see all these kind of Veeam ready icons, Veeam is partnered with a number of vendors, especially in the S3 compatible space. So no matter what your requirements are, what your budget is, believe me, there is a solution out there that is compatible with Veeam that will keep your backups immutable and protect them from ransomware.
And then the other angle is, you could have, it wouldn't be the scale out backup repository, it would be a backup copy job, but you could have this right side, the off-site immutable copy. You could have that be the service provider. So you could redraw it that way too with the insider protection. So many ways to consume immutability with Veeam. I really like talking to customers, getting their own personal interests and perspectives in the mix. But then, a lot of times you're like, well, I can't even spell Linux. I don't even know what XFS is.
It's not that hard, I promise.
Well, no, the joke is I can't even spell XFS. But the reality is, some people just aren't ready for Linux, or they've already invested in something else. So that's where I like the extra grid retention lock that might sit on the dedupe appliances, for example. That meets my ultra resilient criteria. Even over in primary storage snapshot world, we had Zane on a few weeks ago to talk about safe mode, pure snaps. Those are all really, really good. We had some questions. AD asks, is there any project to install Veeam BNR directly on Linux? Ooh, I'll let you take that one since you said Linux is so easy.
I have no comment.
Okay, I'll give a better answer than no comment.
I can't spell Linux, Rick. I just know how to build a hardened repository. That's about it.
Yeah, if you're doing that, you're doing all right. So, AG, on that question, we're on a journey with Linux. The best way to answer that question is to look at some of the things that have happened here at Veeam. We've added Linux proxies. We've had a number of Linux repository enhancements. That's the on-prem world. But then, guess what? Up in the cloud, Veeam Backup for AWS, Veeam Backup for Google, and Veeam Backup for Azure are all written in Linux. So some of the new products are going that way. Will we be able to get BNR there? I don't know, but I don't have a roadmap deliverable I can share with you here. RV, I like your initials, Ryan, asks, how do you recover when your backup is also injected by viruses too? Good point. So two things. One, RV, the secure restore technology, which we had that on the map on the cybersecurity framework really quickly. I'll show you that. That's a technique over here that you definitely want to pursue. But the other thing to highlight is that you also can mentally prepare yourself to completely lose your Veeam backup infrastructure. That's why that one kind of storage arrangement I showed you is only the storage. I'm almost preparing for the Veeam infrastructure to be compromised, and I only have my backup storage left. Do I need to restore to the cloud? Do I need to restore to a service provider? Can I go back to where I came from? Those are all yeses with Veeam. So good questions, Ryan. Reach out to the Veeam SE in your region, kind of identify what you have, and you can go from there. All right, Melissa. So we've talked about our ultra resiliency. You took my two favorite children, and I had to evangelize tape. Thank you. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
You're welcome. You're welcome. But tell me about where do people start? Let's walk through that.
All right. People are always like, okay, we want to be able to recover from ransomware, and where do we start? We just talked about the starting point, right? You need to follow that 3-2-1 rule and kind of add on an immutable air-gapped offline or immutable copy of your data, right? At the end of the day, if some really nasty ransomware gets in and is going after everything in your environment, you will still have your backups to recover from. So the first thing you need to do right now is to start now and protect your data and make sure you have that golden copy, that ultra resilient copy to recover from. That's the first thing.
Very
before
good
you
advice.
can even think about recovering, you need to make sure that you will be able to do it.
I'm going to say it another way. When I talk to our technical support team, when things don't go well, when we aren't able to drive a successful recovery, it's because they don't have that separate copy, or they don't have a copy that's offline, immutable, or air-gapped. So if there's one thing you need to do, it is do that. And with that list of immutable options, that is a very low barrier mode of entry to do that. And if you don't even have extra storage to do that, you can go with the service provider model too. Yeah. So get a copy. And then what do we do from there?
Well, now I'm going to teach you how to cheat. That's what we're going to do.
I like it.
I want to teach you how to cheat, because if you haven't figured it out yet, ransomware is a disaster, right? It's just like any other disaster that we plan for in a business, right? Through our business continuity and disaster recovery planning, ransomware is a disaster, which means that I hope that everybody watching this is already set up to recover from ransomware, because you can use your disaster recovery plan.
Indeed. I think if you take a look at that plan, there needs to be some really specific characteristics.
Yes.
And these three, start with a simple app or a simple set of apps and make this your goal. Make it well documented, make it up to date, and then recently and thoroughly tested. You could even automate that nowadays. So I think
and when I say recently and thoroughly tested, I started using the word thoroughly, because I've been talking to a lot of people lately that are designing their disaster recovery plan and disaster recovery tests to pass, right? They want to please the auditors and the business owners and everybody, and hey, we have all these green check marks, but we haven't actually simulated a real world recovery. We've recovered a couple servers for this app and we said we're good to go, right? So I mean a legitimate disaster recovery test where you've thoroughly tested the recovery of the complete application from A to Z.
I love testing A to Z, and I think that's really important, but it might seem overwhelming. So again, start small, start with a few, I don't want to call them softball applications, but things that you can get an early success. Yeah, get an early success with. Don't take your most critical, gnarly, complicated thing. And then the other thing, we've said this before, but once you get this success model, this might be the ammunition you need to go to your business and say, hey, I have this type of outcome, this type of completely and thoroughly and reliably tested DR, but I need to finally get this last piece of the data center virtualized. You can't have this unless you do that. That might be the ammunition you need to the business. And once you do that, you can start doing all of this great stuff.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about the beginning of kind of like Veeam backup and replication, protecting your data. Veeam 1, detecting issues with your protection and your data as a whole. And then last but certainly not least, Veeam Disaster Recovery Orchestrator, which is all about stress-free recovery for your VMware-based environments. So how do we make DR easier, right? We talked about your DR plan needs to be up to date and it needs to be tested. Those are the two hardest things, right? So we need to do things like save time by automating our documentation and testing, right? Schedule those DR tests to run at any time, either on demand or I go in and run it. Automatically verify that our applications are working correctly, right? Things like SQL, Exchange, SharePoint, all the things that we're really going to need as we're recovering. And by doing all this automation to save time, we're also going to reduce risk, right? DR for all applications, from Veeam CDP replicas to regular replicas to backups, we're able to protect them all and recover them with Veeam backup and replication paired with Veeam Disaster Recovery Orchestrator, making sure we're able to meet those SLAs and maximize availability. And by the way, because we're doing all this DR testing, and this is a real world copy, right? We're testing your backups, your last backup. So we're testing a copy of your data. It's non-disruptive for production. test those patches in your DR environment, run your test, and then we can leave that test running so you can hop here and test those patches. So when that 0 day comes out and you're worried about that new threat or exploit, you can test everything and send those patches out to production with confidence, right? We have to restore confidence in recovery. We need to be able to prove we can recover at every moment, avoid those RPO and RTO violations because we're constantly checking and testing them. And then at the end of the day, if you are ransomware, if there is some kind of disaster, you come in, you